Today, is it okay for the King not to meet Epstein survivors during his US state visit? Should we take cash off councils which failed to fix potholes? And will travel chaos at European airports affect you? With me, Matt Allwright. Welcome back. With me, Matt Allwright. I'm now joined by broadcaster Narinder Kaur and lawyer Nick Freeman. And here is what we're going to be talking about together. First, is it okay for the King not to meet Epstein survivors during his US state visit? In the wake of the scandal surrounding his brother Andrew, there have been calls for Charles to meet with Epstein's victims during his stay overseas. But an itinerary for the King's upcoming trip indicates that neither he nor the Queen will. Is that a mistake? Should the royal couple be making space in their busy schedule to speak to the survivors? After that, should we take cash away from councils which fail to fix potholes? Under new government rules, councils in England could risk losing a third of their funding for maintaining local roads. That's if they fail to prove that they're spending the money effectively. But is it right to punish councils which are probably already pretty cash-strapped? And then, will travel chaos at European airports affect you? This week's rollout of the new EU face and fingerprint scanning system has caused utter havoc for hundreds of British travellers at border checks across Europe. Are you one of them? This is the good news. Travel correspondent Simon Calder is going to tell us what you can do if you've been affected. And we're going to be speaking to the legend that is Mr. Michael Rosen, poet, author, performer. He'll reveal how passport rules spoiled his trip to Europe. And we'll make sure you don't get tripped up in the same way. Call us 02078 862 2222. Calls from landlines may cost up to 16 pence a minute, plus any call set-up fees. Calls from mobiles may cost considerably more. If you want to send us a message, head to Facebook and search for Matt Allwright on 5. Great to have you with us, guys. Narinder, I've been waiting to get you on the show for ages.
I know, I've been so excited to be here. I'm on Matt's show finally, and I've got the mug.
Yes, it's the best mug.
It is. This is definitely the best mug.
Yeah, well, you can't take it with you. Let's kick off our top story today. Is it okay for the King and Queen to not meet Epstein survivors during their trip to the US? I want your calls. I want your thoughts. 0207 862 2222. In the wake of the Andrew scandal, there have been growing calls for the King and Queen to meet with Epstein's victims during their upcoming trip to America, including calls from the family of the late Virginia Giuffre. Further details about the King and Queen's state visit have now been released. It's emerged the pair won't be meeting with survivors, and that's despite Queen Camilla being a long-standing campaigner on domestic abuse and violence. Some have supported the decision and said the King should focus on rebuilding the special relationship, but critics say Charles could use the visit to make a statement, put clear blue water between himself and his brother Andrew. Narinder, how important do you think it would be for the victims of Jeffrey Epstein to have that time with the King, time to make their points clear, time in which he could listen to their side of what's happened?
I mean, just look at how this looks. They have put out, the royal family, King Charles himself, has put out statement after statement how he cares, how his thoughts are with the victims. Yet he's going to travel all the way to America and isn't going to meet the victims to acknowledge their hurt, hear their stories and hear about their trauma, because they don't feel seen. So what this looks like is complete hypocrisy. Like, what is wrong with the royal family? What is wrong with you? You're putting out empty statements. Actions speak louder than words. If you really meant that, if you really cared for victims, King Charles, and you know, I hope they're listening, Camilla, you're supposed to be the patron saint of a domestic violence charity, yet you're not going to meet an Epstein victim. How terrible does that look? Who is doing their PR?
Is it possible that it's just not on the itinerary? That actually something will happen and it's just not been mentioned yet, and actually they are planning to take action? Because we will be talking about it between now and then if it's in the itinerary.
Well, what do you mean by action? What action?
Actually a meeting behind closed doors has been organised. We just haven't been told about it.
OK, then that's a different story altogether. But, you know, behind closed doors, go and meet them. But as far as I'm aware, that's not happening. And what I find with the royal family is they're very good at the projection of this is putting out the right statement, but they don't want that photograph of King Charles or Camilla meeting a victim, because it's almost like an acknowledgement of guilt. And it's not. The victims have been interviewed and there's, look, we just want to be heard. I just think that this is I really feel let down by the royal family. You pretend to care about victims because you're not even going to meet the victims.
OK, part of the role of a monarch, Nick, has to be moral leadership and advocacy for those who don't have a voice, those who can't make their case clearly. This would focus the attention on those victims and allow us to talk about it again in a very open way. So why is it not happening?
Well, the whole conversation is clearly focused on the victims, so that mission's been accomplished. This isn't about the royal...
So you feel that's job done with Epstein, as far as
No. Let me just finish, because this isn't about the royal family saying that the victims, the survivors, don't deserve sympathy. Far from it. But there is a live criminal investigation going on in relation to the King's brother. And he has to be beyond reproach. He cannot be seen to do anything that in any way will influence that ongoing criminal investigation.
So your legal knowledge is greater than mine. How does that work? How does the King meeting with those victims behind closed doors without any press coverage, how would that influence either a judge or a jury?
Well, if we're saying that there is going to be a meeting, that would tend to suggest possible culpability on behalf of his brother. And that's why he's meeting them, to sort of redress it and say, look, I'm really sorry, it was nothing to do with me. This was the behaviour of my brother.
Couldn't he it could as a head of state? Someone that has to show moral leadership.
How do we know that a visit isn't planned at the conclusion if there is going to be a trial of his brother? We don't know at the moment. It's live, and there are other people involved. And surely we don't want to interfere with the course of justice, do we?
But how does it? This is in Britain, that's in America. How does it?
Because the media will report what happened. So even if there was a meeting behind closed doors, that in itself, if you're a juror sitting on a trial and you've got the King's brother on trial before you, and you know that the King's actually gone behind doors and met the victim.
Well, how does that cause anything?
Wouldn't that make you think, oh, goodness me, the King? In what capacity? Has he gone as King, or has he gone as the defendant's brother to say, look, I'm really sorry for what happened?
That's a really weak excuse.
I think this is about the preservation of constitutional independence at this stage. And I'm sure the King and the Queen have taken legal advice. And this is about a constitutional matter. He has to display neutrality. He can't run the risk.
You know what, Nick? Honestly,
can I
it sounds like excuses, and it sounds like there's no sympathy here for the victim.
This is nothing to do with sympathy.
Well, it is, because it sounds like you're making excuses. Well, he can't, and he can't be
But
seen,
it's true.
He can't. He is the head of our state, and he has put out statement after statement, pretending to care for victims.
He's not pretending.
He's not pretending. But then if he's not pretending, then meet the victims. Hear them. You're
not listening to me. He is the brother of a potential defendant.
But he's meeting Trump, by the way. He's meeting Trump, who's named in the files. He's named in the files, Trump is.
The King's not going on trial, is he? And we're not talking about Trump. The question is he right to meet the survivors or the victims? And what I'm saying is, it would be a great thing to do, but it could prejudice a potential trial.
What is the issue with the Queen meeting with the survivors?
Well, it's guilt by association, isn't it? If she's doing it, is she doing it on his behalf?
So you're saying that are you saying she's going to, if she met them, that's guilty?
I'm not saying it's guilty or innocence. What I'm saying is it could influence a forthcoming trial involving his brother.
Then I think she needs to retire her role.
She is going to meet charities that are in favour.
They're not going to meet the victims.
Deliberately.
Isn't there a real risk that the other side of this is, if he does meet with the victims of Epstein, it can be seen as a kind of cynical damage control exercise, where he's going there to try and distance himself from his brother when actually, you know, he had a role to play.
I understand what you're saying, so that's damage control, but at the same point, this is also damaging, because look at all these years, they buried their heads in the sand about Andrew's involvement. They distanced themselves so much, and it damaged the monarchy.
Well, he's stripped he's stripped him of his
only
titles.
After more and more,
He's radically changed the way that the monarchy works at the moment.
Not really.
So you have functioning roles at the core, and the extras have been pushed
he only dealt with Andrew when he started more and more news came out. He didn't deal with him.
Are you suggesting that the King doesn't really sympathise with these victims and survivors?
I think that he needs
Is that your suggestion?
Yes, I am suggesting that, because you can put out statements and then meet them then. Then meet the victims.
Is that the only way that he can display sympathy?
Yes, actually. It's a very good way to meet the victims, because they want to meet him and they want to talk about their trauma. It matters. They matter. To go all the way to America and meet Trump, my goodness, the stuff he's done, but not to meet the victims.
Here's a question for you, Nick. Do you think sympathy is enough? in this case. To express sympathy is one thing, but to actually meet with them and say,
No,
this is what they might be asking is, what's changed? What have you changed to make sure that this doesn't happen again, that men in power do not abuse that power?
Very fair questions. All I'm saying is, if he visits the victims at the moment, that could influence the trial and it could prevent him having a fair trial. And that's the only point that I'm making. It could be seen to have an unwelcome influence on a forthcoming trial. It's an explanation. It's not. You're calling it an excuse. I'm saying it's an explanation.
The senators have actually said this will not jeopardise. They've actually said, there's a senator, I don't know his name, but he's actually put out a video saying this will not jeopardise.
That's his opinion.
That's your opinion.
Of course, we're talking about opinion.
So the fact is, if Camilla
we're all talking about opinions.
Let's take a call. Let's take a call before we go to the break. James is in Milton Keynes. James, do you think the King and Queen should meet with Epstein's victims, with the family of Virginia Giuffre?
No, what I think the problem is right, I've got no respect for Prince Andrew at all, but he's not been charged with nothing yet, right? So if the King and Queen go and meet these people, they're putting a mission of guilt for them, and it's like dragging them into it. Until he's charged, I don't think they should do anything about it. It's like, I think at the moment they're throwing this Epstein stuff up, so they're not mentioning the grooming gangs in England, you know? So it's just like I said, until he's charged, you know, that's the law. Until you're charged, you're innocent until proven guilty.
But the other side of that, James, is if he's not been charged, what's preventing King Charles from meeting with the victims and saying, we understand what's happened to you, and these are the changes we've put in place to make sure that powerful people don't abuse the power they're given?
I understand that. That's a good argument. But then the thing that is, it's like I said, until he's been charged, why should the King apologise for his brother? His brother should be standing on his own, being charged.
Isn't the answer there's a live investigation going on, a live criminal investigation? How could we possibly consider the King having any influence on that in relation to his brother?
James,
it's madness.
No, James, it's madness. OK, if he's innocent until proven guilty, why take his title off him then? Why have you taken his title off him? Why have you taken him outside the royal residences if he's innocent?
Well, we're looking at a criminal burden. Listen, we're looking at a criminal burden of proof.
We have to take a break. We have to take a break. Thank you for your call, James, and we're going to be taking loads more. They're coming in, as you can imagine. Don't forget, later on, we're going to be joined by travel expert legend Simon Calder. We're going to discuss the recent chaos at EU border checks. How can you avoid it when you next go abroad? But straight away, after the break, what do you make of the King not meeting Epstein survivors during his visit to the US? Is it wrong? 0207 862 2222, that's the number you need. We'll see you very soon. Not a bad king as things go. George V, you got a favourite king or queen?
Oh, God, that's really put me on the spot. Yeah. I would have liked Princess Diana to have been queen.
OK.
Oh, that was always...
A lot of people feel that way.
Yes, I always wanted Princess Diana.
I mean, we can talk about that with this. I'm going to ask you, Nick, as well.
I like the last queen. I think she did an amazing job. Yeah. Fantastic job. I don't think anyone did a better job.
OK. Elizabeth II. Well, listen, welcome back. We've all identified... Bognor Regis, right? King George V stayed there for 13 weeks in 1929, recovering from a serious illness. The town was granted the suffix Regis in July 1929. Can you think of any other Regises? This is another one. Put you on the spot.
No.
Lyme.
Lyme Regis, okay. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Houghton, I think.
Oh.
There you go.
Yeah.
Hey, that's me showing off. Don't forget, later on, we're talking to author Michael Rosen. He's got a story about how passport rules scuppered his travel plans earlier this week. We'll make sure you don't make the same mistake that he did, but we're going to get straight back to this. Is it OK for the King not to meet Epstein survivors on his upcoming visit to the US? 0207 862 2222. Loads of calls coming in. Laura is in Salford. Laura, what would you say to King Charles? If you were one of the victims of Epstein and you were in a room with King Charles, what would you take the opportunity to say to him?
I think if I was meeting King Charles, I'd just be grateful to meet King Charles. I wouldn't be expecting to see him if I was a victim of the Epstein case.
You don't think it's right then? You don't think he needs to meet with those women and hear what they have to say?
I don't feel that it should fall on his shoulders. I don't think he should be looking like it's him that's involved. I think he's taking his brother's blame, kind of, if he's going in and there's a court case going on. I agree with what the gentleman was saying earlier.
OK. Do you not think that he has a role to play in putting things right, in making those women feel seen and heard? And maybe if they have got things to say to him, ask him about the changes that have been brought in, about what maybe he could have done differently with the oversight of his brother. You don't think that's a valuable process?
I feel that maybe they could have the process of key people being involved. I don't think it should fall on him. Maybe there could be a group of key people having a discussion about it and putting something in place, and then that being fed back. And then if it was appropriate to meet these people, but I don't. The way it's been relayed as if it should be put on him.
Laura, he's the head of state and his brother is implicated and he has taken the title off his brother and done various other things, and he has put out many statements that he cares for the victims. And I think that if he's in America, what would have been wrong if he'd met a victim? That's nice. That's because you said these people, they're victims of sexual assault and abuse.
Doesn't it create a precedent if he sees these victims? Isn't he going to then feel obligated? Ironically, because of his alleged brother's involvement.
That's his job.
That's what's stopping him from seeing these victims. It's that.
He
probably wants to see them.
At the moment, I don't think that that's appropriate right at this moment.
It's not appropriate to even meet Trump right now. He's been found guilty in a civil court.
That's not the point.
It is the point.
At what point does it become appropriate, though, Laura? At what point do powerful men accept their responsibility and face up to the misdeeds that maybe happened during their watch?
There's a suggestion of blame.
You know what? It did, but it happened during the Queen's watch, didn't it? So it's that we're not. I don't think that the King should be held. It's like he's being held accountable, and I think he's made. It must be a very difficult decision that he's had all this pressure. I mean, I know there's the right and the wrong. He's stripped his brother of what's needed to be stripped of, but I think that is something that maybe a group of people need to come together to discuss before they decide to put it all on him.
He is accountable. They are accountable. They are accountable.
There's a lot of people accountable.
He is the king.
Do you not think that there's a lot of people accountable? A lot of powerful.
We're talking about Prince Andrew. We're talking about Prince Andrew, who's been named by Virginia Giuffre and in the Epstein list.
He's not Prince Andrew.
And that's and actually the Queen allegedly paid off Virginia Giuffre for hush money, and allegedly Charles was also complicit. They're complicit.
But that's not Charles.
Allegedly.
That's not
Was
Charles.
Charles also allegedly?
That's not Charles.
You don't know. We don't know that. This is the thing.
But
we
you're
don't
talking
know.
as if you're an authority on it.
No, I didn't. I said allegedly.
There were civil proceedings on the balance of probabilities. This is criminal proceedings. There is a live criminal investigation.
Victims of sexual abuse.
Yes, I know we're talking about victims,
and no
but
one
it's his
seems
brother.
To care about this.
I'm going to ask you, Narinder, the same question I asked Laura. If you were in the room with King Charles, and you were a victim of Jeffrey Epstein, or you were representing them, as you could do, what would you want to say to him? What are the questions you'd ask? What would you want to hear?
I'd want to hear about accountability. I want to know the truth about the hush money. I'd want to know that as the king, the power he's got, the influence the king has, what can you do to help us? Because no one's been brought to justice. Not one man has been brought to justice.
The proceedings aren't over yet. The proceedings aren't over yet.
Oh, my God, when are they going to start? And the king has got so much...
But they're being invested.
You are making so many excuses, Nick.
It's an explanation. I'm just explaining the legal process.
They have been so... This is going on
I'm explaining the legal
on.
Process to you. It's an investigation. It's not over in 2 minutes.
No,
it has to be a thorough investigation with hundreds of witnesses.
But that's not...
You just keep interrupting.
But no, I'm just saying...
You don't want to listen.
No, we are listening because I'm saying to Matt...
That legal process didn't happen for Virginia Giuffre. That legal process, we didn't see it. It wasn't uncovered.
This is where we are now.
Relying on legal process.
This is where we are now.
You can understand why Virginia Giuffre's family would turn around and say, we didn't get to see that because of the money that came from your family, came from this establishment.
Came from the Queen.
To prevent it happening.
It came from the Queen, not Charles.
We don't know
and what we're doing now is we're inferring, and this is precisely why we can't have Charles, the King, visit the victims.
Okay,
it's precisely why.
Let's take another call.
Because you're making all sorts of inferences.
Laura, thank you for your call. Let's take Justin in Cardiff. Justin, would you like to see the King and Queen meet with the victims of Jeffrey Epstein?
Good afternoon, all. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I think... without being rude, Narinder, you're doing what you do a lot. You're interrupting, speaking louder than everybody else, thinking that you're right.
My voice.
See, here we go. We've got a lawyer sat right next to you explaining the legal processes and the reason why you can't. And you just justified the lawyer's answers by saying if you were in a room, the questions you would ask, all the questions you listed you would ask, all one, the king cannot be presented with. He cannot be presented with the questions that you said you would ask.
Why?
Because there's legal proceedings, and in 6 months' time, 12 months' time, if this did go to court, they could then turn around and go, this will never be a fair trial because of what the king did 6 months, 12 months ago by meeting the victims.
How does that influence a trial, Justin?
Yes,
how does a meeting behind closed doors imply some kind of guilt or connection by association?
Perception.
Because it's exactly that, by association. As the lawyer said, it's the king's brother could end up on trial. So if he's there, we don't know whether it could be behind closed doors, it could be on stage in front of billions of people. It makes no difference.
OK, Justin, in that case...
Let me finish. The point is that if he meets those people, it can be perceived and viewed by a jury, if it ever gets to trial, as a prejudice against the case.
OK, can I ask you a question now? Can I ask you a question now? May I ask you a question?
OK.
By interrupting me and talking over me doesn't make you right.
I just said, can I ask you a question?
Justin, can you finish your point, and then I'll let Narinder come back.
Yes, please, yeah. So what happens if in 6-12 months' time, where we want to go to trial, there can never be a fair case because he then met them. And then that trial will never be given. And then you would be sat on this panel in a year's time saying, oh, he shouldn't have met them. He's ruined this and he knew what he was doing. You've been so judgmental.
No,
and Matthew said to me just now,
can I now...
Thank you, Justin.
About the money.
Thank you, Justin. Narinder.
So, Justin, my answer to that would be, he's taken titles of him, taken him out of the royal residences. Is that not an admission of guilt?
Not
is
at
that
all.
not going to affect
No, it
the
isn't.
trial?
It's not a criminal trial. It's not a criminal trial.
So that's not an admission of guilt.
You're blinkered as to what's actually happening.
So him saying that he has sympathy for the victims, is that not an admission of guilt? Why has he got sympathy if
Can you understand, though, Nick, how the women who have been affected by Jeffrey Epstein could say exactly this? Legal processes and connection, privilege, those are the things that have kept justice from us. Yeah. And if it's being used again as an excuse for where we cannot get our point across, they have a point.
I understand. How many victims of sexual abuse has the king visited? Okay. How many?
Well, what do you mean? Because this is
I'm asking a question.
About Epstein victims.
How many? There have been appalling cases where there are victims, survivors of sexual abuse. What I'm asking you is, how many times has the King of England gone and met with those victims?
I think he's met... Camilla's met many victims.
I'm asking about the king. I'm talking about the king.
I'm talking about the monarchy.
We're talking about the king.
So Camilla is going to meet victims.
That's the point.
I want to take another call just very quickly. Janet's in Renfrewshire. Janet, do you think the King and Queen should meet with Epstein survivors?
Yes. I think it's very important that the two of them should have compassion for these ladies that have gone through hell and will always be going through hell. Just to give them a boost, even, just to be there, because there's some British among them. And it would be nice to show their faces even and talk to them nicely. It would boost them up and give them something to get hope from being in the position they are as royals.
OK, listen, Janet, thanks. It's a good note to end on. Thanks for all your calls on that. Don't forget, later on, Simon Calder's here to tell us how to try to avoid chaos at airports following the rollout of the new EU border checks. After the break, should we take cash off councils which fail to fix potholes? That's what the government plans to do. Is it fair? 0207 862 2222. That's the number you need. We'll see you very soon. Have you ever met Mr. Pothole? Has Mr. Loophole met Mr. Pothole? You could do a great duo, a great double act. He's a great... There is a Mr. Pothole. Yeah. He makes it his business of going around the country, identifying potholes and trying to get them fixed. You can imagine he's very busy, right? He's a wonderful fella. We've had him on the show.
Oh, wow.
Liam, however, found a 5-foot hole in County Cork back in 2013, nicknamed it the swimming pool hole. There he goes. In he gets. Look at that. He shared a video of YouTube of him swimming in it. Thousands of views. He said it was there for a week. They filled it in within 24 hours of that. But actually, it turns out it was caused by a burst water main. So it wasn't technically a pothole.
It was a crater.
Live and learn. I don't know what you call that. Bath. Don't forget, later on, we'll speak to travel expert Simon Calder. Have you been affected by airport check chaos? We want to hear from you. And if you've got holidays coming up, you'll want to stay tuned to find out how to avoid an incredibly common passport-related mishap. Michael Rosen, poet and author, unfortunately was a victim of that. But first, should we take cash away from councils which fail to fix potholes? Do you have a pothole problem in your road? Perhaps you've even taken to trying to repair them yourself. Get your calls in now. I'd love to hear from you. 0207862 2222. Under new government rules, councils in England could risk losing a third of their funding to fix potholes if they fail to prove they're spending the money effectively. Councils now have to publish reports to show how they're spending their highways cash, and they have to share their long-term strategies for road upkeep. This comes after recent data suggested that UK roads are plagued by at least 1 million potholes, roughly 6 potholes per mile. I think most of us can see they're on the increase. Have you been frustrated by the pothole problem? Should we penalise local authorities who aren't doing enough to tackle it? Nick, where's the sense in taking money from councils when money is part of the solution of fixing potholes?
Well, they're not doing a good job, and that's why we've got a horrendous problem. My solution is this. If you can just consider the tax so that the motorist pays vehicle excise duty, and it pays tax on petrol. And the total amount of tax paid for usage of our roads is just over £33 billion per annum.
How much of it makes it to councils? How much?
So the government are talking about over a period of 4 years giving 33 billion. The damage caused by potholes every year is about 14 billion. Right. Okay. What we're told is it will cost 17 billion to sort the whole problem out. Right. So you don't need to be a mathematician to say, let's get ourselves in order, and rather than drip feeding 1.7 over 4 years, let's give it to the government, let's get rid of all the bureaucracy and just give them the money, because in a year we'll save it. 14 billion is wasted of taxpayers' money. Every year is thrown away because of the damage, injury, congestion, all the associated
What you're
stuff.
saying, though, is that the councils aren't getting enough of that vehicle excise duty, aren't you? You're saying they're not getting the funding that they need to sort this out. So why blame the councils if it just comes down to underfunding?
We're looking in that. Look, the councils at the moment have all the funding that they're supposed to get. They're receiving the funding. What the government is saying is you're not doing your job properly, because councils have other priorities, competing interests, social care, welfare, housing. So where do potholes
you're saying to take that money separately,
take all the budget that's supposed to go to councils, take it away, give it a national organisation. Because what councils do is, because they're cash strapped, they'll at the end of their year, as they're doing now, they'll find the cheapest contractor who will do a lousy job. It'll need repairing again in 3 months, 4 months, 5 months. So I'm saying take it all away and let's give it one national body who has the responsibility of sorting everything out. The council's role is they report the potholes. The government's role is, with the money that they're going to have, is sort out the problem.
But we pay council tax and we expect our local councils to deal with our local issues, I guess. And then you are just kind of, you know...
That council tax goes on housing, social... I'm talking about the money that is generated by motorists for road usage, and it's a significant amount, more than enough to repair it.
Is this cross-subsidisation? Is that what we're looking at? That basically councils are taking money that should be going into the roads, and when we look at a pothole, what we're looking at is adult social care. We're looking at, special needs provision, that sort of stuff, which has grown and grown for councils over the years.
Chronic underfunding of local councils, chronic underfunding, 14 years of Tory government, hate to say it, and then to say, actually, well, you're not doing a good enough job, we're going to take more money when they haven't got any money, they're already spread thin. I don't think that's the answer, to penalise a council.
You'd leave it with the council.
Well, it's not working.
I know, but they need more money.
The roads are appalling. Yeah. They're appalling. We can't carry on like this. It's like a third world country.
If I don't like potholes, I can vote my local councillor out. Yeah. Right, and they will lose. They will be out the next election. If you centralise it, are you really going to vote nationally on the basis of potholes, or are you going to vote on all the other big stuff, the economy, and the way that's working, schools, the NHS, the rest of it? You're not going to do that.
Well, your priority is going to be other stuff like social education, housing, etc., etc. That's going to be higher, more important, isn't it, than potholes?
People are really upset about potholes.
Potholes are at the bottom of the scale of importance, aren't they?
Do you want to see a graph?
Yes.
Here we go.
Well, I love a graph.
Oh, I love a graph too. This is council funding over the last sort of 15, 16 years, starting in 2010 here. This is our base of 100, right? 3 lines here. This is cash. This is how much cash councils have received. You can see massive dip in the sort of mid-Cameron years. Here we go through Tories. It picks up a little bit here. And then late Tory, so Sunak. Boris Johnson, Sunak, onwards, Liz Truss, goes right through
upwards
the roof.
trajectory.
However, real terms. So this is accounting for inflation. You can see, accounting for inflation, it is below what it was back here in 2010,
the
2011.
costs of getting them fixed.
This is the really important one, though. Real terms per capita.
Oh, what does that mean?
This means what councils have to spend after inflation on each of us. So that means because our population has gone up during that time, there is less, much less, to spend on per person in real terms per capita.
But that's
what's happened to council
and that's
funding.
a council problem. Look, the motorists...
Why is it a council problem?
Because the motorists are paying for their usage. They're paying for champagne roads and they're getting craters. And there's 33 billion... And, you know, the money is there, but that money, as you're saying, is being cross-subsidised into other areas, which is wrong.
We have to take a break there. Later on, we're going to have travel expert Simon Calder in the studio. He's going to tell us how to avoid the chaos being caused by changes to border checks, if it's possible to avoid it. After the break, though, your calls on potholes. Should we take cash off councils who failed to fix them? 0207862 2222. That's the number you need. We'll see you very soon. Costa's hiring security to stand by checkout counters and entrances of a small number of branches in London and Manchester. What are they nicking?
The
machines, apparently, because I live above a coffee shop and he's always getting broken into. The machines, apparently they're really worth a lot.
This is security by the checkout. So what? Somebody orders a coffee,
biscuits,
and it comes in and they say, you know, like latte for Grant. And then Grant legs it.
Well, it's very easy at the moment, without security, just to get your stuff and walk out, isn't it? Who's going to stop
coffee's
you?
about £6.
Yeah, coffee, cake and sandwich.
You don't stop somebody with a hot coffee in their hand, do they?
Oh, God, no.
It's got a lid on it. It's got a lid on it.
No, it's a spills everywhere.
Well, listen, I suppose we'll find out. Maybe you know. Maybe you're a Costa employee. Get in touch. Welcome back. We're live on 5. Narinder and Nick here with me. Don't forget, later on, we're talking about the chaos. Recent chaos at European airports caused by a change to EU border rules. Do you want to know how to try to avoid travel disruption? Mr. Simon Calder will join us with his top tips. What a man. Let's get back, though, to potholes, whether we should take cash away from councils that failed to fix them. 0207862 2222 is the number. Paul's in Bolton. Paul, how's your road looking? How's the street outside your house looking?
The streets are fine here because I only live in a small town, so it tends to be okay generally. Firstly, I just wanted to quickly say that I'm someone who appreciates Narinder being on the show because she's had a little bit of stick this morning off one of the callers, and I appreciate all that she does, and I hope that she had a happy New Year in the Sikh calendar. I'm not sure how you pronounce it, but
Vasaki.
I just wanted...
As Nick says,
not Versace.
Thank you, Paul. That means the world to me. It really, you don't understand. I get so upset sometimes.
You'd like to know there's one fan out there, don't you?
There's one.
There's many more than one. Listen, thanks, Paul. Thanks for sticking up for Narinder. We wanted to come back on this show. It's the first one. Let's talk about potholes, though. Should we be holding these councils responsible? Does taking cash away take away the thing they need, the funds that they need to sort it all out?
Well, we shouldn't be taking cash away. We need to get to the bottom of why these potholes are not getting fixed. But taking cash away is just punishing an area, and there's lots of things need doing in an area, and there's more things going on in an area than just potholes, and it just punishes the people taking cash away. So like with everything, we need to get to the bottom of why these potholes aren't getting fixed. But taking cash away from an area that needs it in times when every area needs money right now, it seems, isn't the right way forward as far as I'm concerned.
Do you think, though, we need greater transparency, though, Paul? Is that part of the answer? Just to be able to say, if there's money for roads, it's got to be spent on roads? Because that is part of what we're seeing.
Well, I do agree with that to a point, but then if there's something much more important, I mean, there's lots of things where we need to help people at the minute, and that's possibly a little bit more important than potholes as far as I'm concerned. People being in houses, people being fed, all that kind of thing. So if money's being spent on free school dinners...
I know what you're saying, Paul. I know what you're saying. I'm a motorcyclist, and a pothole can mean life or death for cyclists and motorcyclists. So I absolutely agree. There are many things that councils have to look at, but you know, potholes are not just a symptom, they're actually a cause of people's lives getting worse as well.
Do you not think, Paul, if the motorist is paying the vehicle excise duty and paying the tax on fuel, that money is for use of roads, that money should be spent on maintaining the roads? Do you not think that's fair, rather than rediverting that money into social care, housing, education, etc., etc.? Don't the motorists that keep this economy going deserve to have a reasonable road surface? It's costing £14 billion a year just for the damage that's occasioned. Every year, £14 billion.
Well, I can see your point, and obviously, but I don't think it's just motorists that are keeping the country going. A lot of the time, it's working class people and poorer people that are keeping the country going and getting very little out of it a lot of the time. So, to be honest, I do see both sides, but I think some of the other areas you mentioned are actually much more important than potholes. But like I said, we can't punish an area, and we need to just have better transparency and get to the bottom of why the potholes are not getting fixed. But like I say, you shouldn't be punishing other people, because that will punish poorer people in the long run.
OK, thanks for your call, Paul. Thanks for sticking up for Narinder. Sally's in Devon. What do you reckon, Sally? Should we be a bit more stick, a bit less carrot with these councils and make them stick to their commitments to us to keep the roads right?
Well, I come from Devon, which is the county with the largest amount of roads in the country. I don't think that we get the biggest share of money, because you said the money is divided out per head, so we are not getting our fair share of money to fix the roads. I think that any town like London who has a congestion charge should have the money they get from the congestion charge, because that is for road use. And everyone if I drive to London, I will be paying your congestion charge. I think that should be taken off the amount of money they get for roads and distributed to the rest of the country. We get a large amount of people coming from the rest of the country down for holidays here, and they are not paying for the roads down here. So I think it's about time we got our fair share of the money. I know when I was a school governor, our kids got one of the lowest amounts of money per head, and that's not fair. And I think it's about time. We in the Southwest are always the poor relations, and I think it's about time we got our fair share.
Sally, and, I think what I'm getting loud and clear, actually, from all of our callers and from the panel as well, is that if you put money aside for roads, it's got to be spent on roads. It's got to be transparent. That's what perhaps needs to change. Listen, thanks for your calls on that. Later on, Vanessa is going to be here taking your calls on whether it's unfair to criticise Harry and Meghan for their Australia tour. After the break, though, will airport checks chaos affect you? I hope not. Travel expert Simon Calder's on the way to tell us how to avoid the chaos, plus author Michael Rosen telling us how passport rules scuppered his plans to travel to Europe earlier this week. Find out exactly what happened so you don't fall in the same trap. 0207 2222 is the number you need. Get in your questions for Simon. We'll see you very soon. To be precise, she was an assistant physician, studied medicine, specialising in gynaecology, working as an assistant physician at the Women's Clinic at the Hanover Medical School from 88 to 92. There you go. Welcome back. We're live on 5. Narinder and Nick here with me. Vanessa's coming up shortly. She's asking if it's unfair to criticise Harry and Meghan for their Australia tour. But now I am delighted to say we are joined by the globe-trotting legend that is Simon Calder, travel correspondent for The Independent. If you've got a question for Simon, and why wouldn't you, get in touch, because since the start of this week, hundreds of British travellers have been hit by travel chaos, some facing significant waits at border checks at numerous European airports. There have been reports of 3-hour delays, even missed flights. It follows the rollout of the European Union's new face scanning and fingerprint border checks, also known as EES, or the EU Entry-Exit System. Maybe you've missed a flight due to delays at border control. You're wondering if you're entitled to any compensation for it. Maybe you're due to go abroad soon and you're really worried about travel disruption. Don't worry, Simon's here. He's wearing exactly the same outfit as Nick as well.
Well,
it's like you're consulted. Anyway, we're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about other things. 0207 862 2222. Simon, it's so lovely to have you here, as always. You made it. You're usually in, I don't know, Guangdong province or somewhere else. You're actually in the country. And,
I am.
And very busy because of this system.
Well, let me just take you back to Sunday, end of the school holidays for an awful lot of people, flying back from beautiful Milan. Lots of people have been on ski trips, city breaks or whatever. Sunday morning, they turn up hours early because they've been warned. The new entry-exit system could mean that you spend a lot of time getting through passport control because, of course, on your first crossing of a Schengen area border, you have your 4 fingers of your right hand taken, a facial biometric as well. That goes onto a big register, and that's going to take rather longer than the old, just having a look at your passport, give it a quick stamp, off you go. So that's been happening. Unfortunately, there was a Manchester flight from Milan where 122 people were just told, sorry, you were too slow getting through.
Does this mean that there are some airports that are doing this better than others?
Oh, yes.
We hear about Milan. We're not hearing about other places. Some are just up to speed, some aren't?
Yeah, right, OK. I'm getting lots of good reports from various places. So, for instance, if you go to Malta, I've heard really good things about that. Palma Airport going in seems to be really well organised. Alicante as well. But then you go to the Canaries, Tenerife, Lanzarote. I've had some really bad reports from there. Top of the pile, though, apparently is in Austria, where Vienna and Salzburg will just make it a dream. You won't even notice that you've been screened.
Does this put paid to that argument that there's some sort of punishment from the EU against us? Because if that were the case, they'd all be rubbish, wouldn't they?
No, this is not punishment. This is exactly what we asked for. We knew about the entry-exit system before the European Union leave vote. We were actually involved in setting it up. Then after that, we said, we'd love to be subject to this, please. We want to be fingerprinted. We want to be photographed. We want to limit the amount of time we can stay. And we want to be subject to those controls on the length of validity of your passport. We said all that. The European Union has delivered exactly what we wanted.
So, Simon, is this because they're not happy with the validity or the integrity of your passport? Is that what this is about?
This is simply a digital border scheme. They want to keep tabs on who's going in and who's coming out. They've just muffed it very, very badly. And so, for instance, you go from here just a mile or so to London St Pancras International. You've got all these big entry-exit kiosks. They're standing there completely unused because they can't hook them up to the French IT system.
Okay.
I've seen a lot of people asking, why do they need this biometric data? Why are they doing this? I've seen a lot of people questioning.
Yeah, well, every country, the US, Australia, they want to know who's coming in and they want to use biometrics.
Right, very quickly, Simon, can we speed up the process and what's the best strategy to avoid what happened to those passengers in Milan?
Yeah, unfortunately, you are absolutely dependent on what you are told to do at the frontier. Now, what the strategy that you can adopt, particularly if you don't have checked-in baggage, is just getting to the airport ridiculously early.
I like to do that, though.
No.
I'm one of them. I'll get there 6 hours early.
I'm always an hour and 10 minutes does me, but now it's three or 4 hours ahead. Cabin baggage only, because otherwise you might find that the bag drop doesn't open until 2 hours before your flight, and you just sit there drinking overpriced coffee.
If it happens to you, compensation, insurance?
It's just awful. And that's the worst thing. All these people did nothing wrong, and they're all suffering financially. One guy spent £1,600 to get his family back from Italy. And the airline says, sorry, your responsibility to get to the gate. The airport says, no, nothing to do with us. Try the passport people. They don't reply. Travel insurers say, nothing to do with us. And even if you're on a package holiday, they say, well, we'll try and help. But your flight went, so that's the end of our obligation.
Okay, so some of them are doing it better. It's only going to be the first time that you have this kind of delay. So if you go to one of the nice places, Salzburg, Vienna first, a little trip there. I mean, who can do that? I don't know. No. But do that before you go somewhere else.
No, because, unfortunately, it's being so badly done that you've got double trouble at Milan, for instance. I talked to these people who missed their flight. They said, yeah, we got all the whole fingerprints and facial going in and the same thing on the way out. It's just absolutely nuts.
Is it every time?
OK, we have to listen. This is not the only reason that people are missing flights, tragically, at the moment, because we're going to bring in a special guest, hero of mine, author, poet, performer, Michael Rosen. How are you, Michael? I know you've had such trouble. Your story about your European travel that was scuppered this week. What happened? Why did you miss out, Michael?
Well, listen, let me clear up straight away. It was my fault. It was all entirely my fault. So I have a passport. Here it is. I've got it right in front of me. The issue date on it is the 4th of March, 2016. The expiry date is the 4th of August, 2026. In other words, my passport is more than 10 years old. I was trying to get to Italy this Monday, so by about 2 or 3 weeks, it was more than 10 years old. And also, if you think about renewing the passport, well, I had about 5 months to go before renewing, but you should renew more than 6 months. So I was failing on 2 grounds because I'm afraid I wasn't up to date with what I should have been up to date with.
Michael, I can only imagine you're a seasoned traveller. You've been around the world. What did this mean for you on this journey? Did you miss out on something really important?
Yes, I did. I was supposed to go, as I thought, to hear the announcement of a big prize in children's literature world called the Hans Christian Andersen Award, and I was on a short list. There were 6 of us, so I missed out on the announcement. And as it turns out, when I returned home with my tail between my legs, feeling rather chumpish, the first phone call I got was to say that I'd won that award. So, you know, the day turned out to be all right in the end, but sadly I wasn't there to hear the announcement.
A good result, but not much. A day trip to the airport, I mean, that's for the birds, isn't it? That's not much fun. Well, listen, congratulations on the award, Michael. As I say, you're a massive hero to me and to children across the world for the stories that you wrote. And I suppose, listen, you've helped us learn something. I'm going to turn to you, Simon. Just ink in those passport rules for us again. So protect somebody from what happened to Michael Rosen there.
OK, so the thing that Michael fell foul of, and nobody could blame him, he got sent his boarding pass, so he didn't go through all the normal rigmarole. The thing that got him was your passport cannot be more than 10 years old on the day you plan to enter the European Union. And then there's another rule which says it's got to have at least 3 months remaining on the day you plan to leave. And sadly, every day I am hearing from people who get caught by this. It's just awful.
That's why I try and tell people these rules as often as I can, because there's always going to be a percentage of people that just go, oh, yeah, my passport's still in date. It's going to be fine. It's not. 10 years, 3 months when you come back. Caroline's in London. Let's take a call. Have you got a question for Simon, Caroline?
Yes, I do. I'm going to the Baltics at the end of May via Helsinki, and then we will have a connecting flight there and then go to Lithuania. Where do we do the EU entry-exit scheme?
Great question.
Very straightforward. It will simply be at Helsinki Airport because that's the first point of entry into the Schengen area. After that, your flight to Lithuania, or indeed anywhere else in the European Union, or Norway, Switzerland, Iceland, that would be classed as a domestic flight. The only time you're going to show your passport is probably when you're getting on the plane. They'll want a bit of ID.
Great stuff. Does that answer your question, Caroline?
We have a very tight turnaround time to get to the next flight. Will that be enough time?
Well, it all depends. It should be. Of course, the airlines, the airports desperately want you to get through. If it doesn't work, then the airline will put you on the next available flight. OK,
thank you so much for your call, Caroline. Simon, leave us with 3 big thoughts. 3 things we can take away from today that's going to help us with the travel from here on in. OK, so the very first one is if you can possibly get an Irish passport or any other nationality, get it, because then none of this will apply to you. Legally, you should say that. If you've got an Irish passport, it is the most powerful document in the world for anybody trying to get in or out. Next one. Next one, if you're going through somewhere with the entry-exit system, just do what you are told, but allow loads and loads of time. And finally, if you want to go somewhere where you're not going to have any problems, well, I'd recommend Albania and Kosovo, where I've just been. It took me 15 seconds with a human being to get into Kosovo and 5 seconds to get out of Albania, thanks to the e-gates. Great stuff. Thank you so much, Simon, the Oracle. I'm going to add one more. Check your passport today for those 2 rules, because it'll save you a lot of heartache, just like wonderful Michael Rosen. That's it. We're out of time, but we are going to come back to this. We had so many calls today. Simon, you're going to have to get a return ticket because we're going to get you back in very soon. Don't go anywhere, though, because Vanessa is here next. She's discussing whether it's unfair to criticise Harry and Meghan for their Australia tour. One reporter there has accused the royals of wanting to use Australians as an ATM. Is that fair? The number 0207862 2222 if you want to speak to Vanessa. I'm sure she'll be very happy to hear from you. Thank you again to Simon, to Michael, to Narinder and to Nick. Thank you for watching and for all your calls. I'll see you back here same time tomorrow. But